Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. Today, Rich and I are going to preview Super Bowl 60, giving you our early thoughts. We're still a week and a half out. Early thoughts on the big game. So make sure you stick around. Welcome to Sharp Football Analysis. He's Rich. I'm Ray. We're here to preview Super Bowl 60, looking at the betting, looking at the DFS, the fantasy angles for it. Although I will say we are more than a week out of the Super Bowl. We have a lot more content coming on the feed, content including Rich and I, where we talk to Warren, get Warren's thoughts on the Super Bowl after his big Super Bowl report comes out. We're going to have our Sharp Week, our Sharp Tank come back from last year, which was a lot of fun. And so Rich and I would be involved in that as well. So a lot more content coming out. This show is going to be more of like overall thoughts, early thoughts. And I think we'll get more nitty and gritty as we move closer to the Super Bowl, the final game of the 2025 NFL season, which is, it's unfortunate. But if you want all that information, if you want all that content, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to us, a podcast feed of choice, your YouTube notifications, turn those on, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. Go and check it out. All right, Rich, how we doing, King?
We're doing good, man. Like you said, Super Bowl right around the corner. We'll have one more week to kind of, get everyone indoctrinated in all the ins and outs, the matchups. And, I've started to do the worksheet. I know Warren started his huge Super Bowl report. And, I'm sure a lot of people that aren't fans of Seattle and New England are very excited that we've got two kind of organizations that have been in a lot of Super Bowls, the past decade plus. So, but I think it's going to be a more exciting matchup, I think, on the surface than most do, even though I do believe, like most, that, Seattle is the best team that's representing the two teams that are in the game.
Yeah, no, and we'll get into that. It is interesting that everybody thinks that, and the line is what it is. But we'll get into that as we get there. I think, there are at least good stories out of these two teams. I don't know if it's like the most exciting storylines, but Darnold getting into a Super Bowl, being favored in a Super Bowl, that's fun. Jets fans having to root for Sam Darnold because he's going against the Patriots, that's fun. Obviously, Drake May getting here, Mike Vrabel getting here in such a short time. The Patriots being able to revamp their roster and specifically their defense in free agency and kind of seeing what are the long-term ramifications of that as people look at team building and things like that. Lots of interesting kind of plot lines and storylines here. And so we'll get into all of those, like we said, over.
How many people do you think know that Sam Darnold's only 28? Like, do you think a lot of people think he's like 34? Like,
yeah, that would be a fun one. Wasn't that Geno for a while with Seattle too? Is that everybody just assumed Geno was older than he was whenever?
Yeah, a tease too is that I updated the Dynasty rankings of the site, and it's like he's like less than a year difference of like Jalen Hurts, right? Like it's like I think a lot of people think of Darnold because he was a 21-year-old rookie and basically had like that pre-career section of his career was like, this dude is trash and like not good, and now he's kind of shed that. And I wonder if a lot of people just don't know he's not just like how Geno was, where he came on like at the very end, it's just like, I wonder if a lot of people realize like he's basically like still got a lot of runway here. Huge year for Sam Darnold because he took that discount coming off the Minnesota season didn't end well last year. Took a discount. I wonder if he's gonna he wins a Super Bowl here, if the bag's gonna go up a little bit for him.
And it is also fun with Sam Darnold because it's probably not fun for him, but we do have all of those old memes. We have the mono meme. We have the seeing ghost meme. Like when things were going really, really, really bad in New York, all those memes still exist.
Which was against the Patriots, but
there you go. Yeah,
I refuse to incorporate any like game from 2021 against some New England team into this analysis, though.
How dare you? This is exactly the same team. Everybody knows that. But as I mentioned, this is going to be our last game. So I'd like to talk to you. I know you and I are both video game fans. You look less like a video game fan than I do. I look like the South Park meme, but you look less like it. We're both into video games. I assume as we head in here to the offseason, maybe even this week, as we're just slowly getting into the Super Bowl, we're getting into our video game life. You scoped any out that you're going to be really diving into here as we get into the offseason? Any nice recommendations for the listeners?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that watch this on YouTube and they see my background and all stuff. The Venn diagram overlap of fantasy football and nerddom is a complete circle for me. And listen, my most famous fancy article I ever written was on a video, the greatest video game code of all time. The
That's right,
Konami
Konami
code.
code.
So,
Yep.
which was in 2013, by the way, that article was written. So
That was so long.
so long ago. Very excited too to get into the weeds of the running quarterback stuff and stuff that happened this season with mobile quarterbacks too and the injuries we had. But yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of getting some gaming in. I don't get a lot of chance to play during the season. We are a month out from Resident Evil 9 coming out, so I think I'm gonna do all the remakes. I've not played any of the remakes.
Oh wow.
That came out. So I think I'm gonna do a run through there. I've played, 7 and I played Village, which obviously don't need remakes, and looks like 9 is like a mix of like Resident Evil 4 action Leon, because Leon's in the game, and then like the Resident Evil 7 and 8 stuff. So also, if anyone has never played any of them on VR, they are incredible games to play on VR.
Incredibly terrifying games.
Yes, dude. Do you feel like with the headset on, like that claustrophobic, like that angle? I played 7 on VR and it was, oh my gosh, dude. I thought it was a heart attack.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I've been playing more recently Arc Raiders, obviously a very popular game. I'm not calling that out to anybody, but I had a run a couple nights ago on with my friends that I game with, and they died, and I was just trying to escape Stella. People who know about it will know about Stella by myself, and it was literally a 15-minute horror movie. It was insane. That game is fun. It's also the most tilting game of all time, and I don't know if I like it or hate it, but Arc Raiders is definitely on that list. I haven't bought Ghost of Yotei yet because I didn't want to fall into it, because I know that as soon as I start playing it, that it'll be 10 hours later. I'll be like, oh, I've been sitting here playing this for 10 hours. So hopefully I'll get to play that and Resident Evil. That'll be fun. I have some more off-season plans. I think I want to learn an obscure language with my friends, just that we can talk in public without anybody knowing it. Are you interested in learning an obscure language with me?
Yeah, I've always wanted to get back into doing, just exploring learning a new language anyway. So, what can I sign up for?
But we got to pick one. Like, here's the problem, though. You got to pick one that's got enough information that you can learn it, but that also not enough people speak around you. And so I'm thinking South Asia, because here in Texas, obviously a lot of people speak Spanish, and everybody around here speaks a little bit of Spanish. So the Romance languages are out, right? Like, you get into the Germanic languages, there's a lot of English cognates in there, right? Like, you do that with like the Nordic languages too. Russian, I don't know if I can learn any of those Russian languages. So I'm thinking South Asia somewhere is where I'm thinking. You interested in learning Tagalog or whatever that's called? You interested in learning in those languages with me?
I could be. You make a good point, though. We might need to learn Russian, though, for the long game.
It might not be a bad idea. Like, do you want to learn Russian? That might be fun, actually. Read War and Peace. So that's might be my off season. So if you want to learn a language with me so that we can converse on Twitter with people being confused, make sure you do that. What we really will be doing in the off season, real talk, will be getting ready for the next fantasy season, the 2026 fantasy season, getting everything ready for the draft kit. You already have something out as part of the draft kit, which is the Dynasty rankings. You've updated the Dynasty rankings coming now out of the 2025 season. Obviously, you have one more game left. Not a lot's going to change. We hope not a lot's going to change in terms of Dynasty rankings coming out of this game. Please stay healthy, everybody coming out of this game. So you went through and updated the Dynasty rankings. I would highly recommend you head over to Sharp Football Analysis and check those out. They are available for everybody. There's no paywall on those Dynasty rankings. Make sure you go and check out kind of where he has everybody. But there's one player I wanted to talk about, because this is, I think, going to be one of the more interesting players both in redraft and in Dynasty this offseason, just based on what we've heard from the coaching staff, based on the changes that the Jaguars have made. And that's obviously Travis Hunter. And I didn't even look to see where you dropped him. I wanted to kind of be surprised and react in real time. I assume that Travis Hunter fell in your Dynasty rankings. That feels like a safe assumption. But what are you doing with him? What did you do with him in those Dynasty rankings?
Yeah, and I did the Dynasty rankings updates during the season. I think like week 9 or 10, and even just seeing some of the changes that happened in the back half of the year that kind of influence was pretty interesting. And one of those was, at that point, the Jaguars did not yet have Jacoby Myers when I did the initial run. So not only do they trade for Jacoby Myers, but they give him a contract extension. We also saw Parker Washington, Penn State legend Parker Washington. I'm sorry, I caught myself slipping there. not only because at that point of the year, Parker Washington had like he had popped in at some good games and some guys were out, but then we saw this kind of manifest and just kind of continue throughout the course of the end of the season. And it looks like he has an established role. It remains to be seen what they do with Brian Thomas Jr. I would assume that they still keep him. I mean, having a guy on that rookie contract with that kind of talent, I feel like you just don't give away those kind of guys.
Yeah.
But we'll see if he gets moved or not. It does give them a little bit of flexibility to kind of, with Travis Hunter coming off this injury too, like do they want to calibrate him to be a package player in offense? Does he play more defense? These are all things that are kind of unknown with Travis Hunter. He was kind of a player coming out of the draft. I was like, you know what? I'm not really going to super overthink like what he does in the NFL. This is a guy who's just been good at every level of football he's played and anything that they've asked him to do. But we also know like touches are finite in the NFL. Yeah. Targets are finite in the NFL. And like this is a very big log jam for him to kind of fight through in terms of dynasty, like for fantasy relevancy, right? Like being an impact player. So yeah, I did knock him down to like a fringe, like wide receiver 3, like overall in there. Like, but it's mostly because like you have a pocket of guys that are just like, are aged out. It's like, you know, dynasty rankings are kind of fluid in terms of like, are you using them from startup, are using them for like a trade tool? Like there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. But yeah, I ended up moving him into like an area where it's like a lot of guys that have draft capital invested in them on rookie contracts, but haven't quite popped yet. Guys like Matthew Golden, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, like kind of that bucket of guys, like trying to figure out what we have here. Jaden Higgins, like kind of grouped up with there. And then you kind of have like that group of veterans behind them, like guys that if you are, in a competitive league and you're competing, like you might add these guys on rosters, but like if you're in a startup, you're probably not taking guys like Stephon Diggs over him or like Devontae Adams or Mike Evans, like guys like that, right? So it's like you kind of like have that group of area of like wide receiver like 30 to 50 that has these guys haven't broke out yet, but have the draft capital. They have kind of some upside angles in terms of talent, but haven't popped for fantasy. And then you have these other guys that have popped, but are kind of aging out, right? Like, and you know, how much more meat is left on the bone for these types of players. So kind of that group of guys is kind of where I have him in that area.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, I think all the guys that you mentioned and kind of the younger tier, I would rather than Hunter based on just the vibes that we're getting out of Jacksonville. And obviously they can make a move. And if they make a move, it changes. That's how Dynasty works. That's why you bet on talent if you're playing the long game. Although, as you said, if you have a competitive team, you know, you got to go and get, and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, that's ultimately what we're doing, right? That's the whole goal of Dynasty. I do think some people lose sight of that, of what the goal is. That happens a lot in startups, by the way, is that people end up bad for the first 3 years of a Dynasty league. And how long do Dynasty leagues even on average last? I'm lucky I'm in several really good ones, one of which has been around for, I think we're going on our 20th season now. And so like you can get into good ones, but like you get in a Dynasty startup and you're like, all right, well, I'm bad for 3 years and then the Dynasty fails. Like a lot of people mess up, I think, in startups, and that you should be drafting a lot more like a redraft league than a Dynasty league. But that's just my general thoughts on Dynasty in general. But I'm interested in Hunter because I think based on where he was drafted last year, there's no way that you could view that as a good draft pick right now. But going back to it, I think people are going to go back and say that he was a bad draft pick. And I don't know if he was. And I think your rationale on Travis Hunter of like what this guy, like you said, what he had been, how successful he had been, could he be a special player, especially last year where we didn't feel great about it? Like I look at all that and I think, yeah, I think that's fine where we ended up with Hunter, especially since, you know, there's this thing where Dynasty draft picks are always more valuable before they're made. And I think that that's a market issue that you can take advantage of, in that people are going to be much more interested in trading for the pick that is Mekhi Lemon than they will be trading for him once he's been drafted onto your team. Like it's just a weird thing that it's the Peter Griffin meme of this, anything could be in this box. It could even be a boat, right? Like that's where we are. So I am interested in that aspect of it as well. But I just say that there are lots of bad Dynasty picks every year. Like, are the people who drafted RJ Harvey in the first round this past year feeling great about where they are right now, with J.K. Dobbins likely coming back, what we saw from him? Are the people that drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., #1 overall 2 years ago, how are they feeling about where they are? How are people that drafted Roma Dunze even feeling about where they are, given you could have had, Brock Bowers instead of a Dunze? And so there's lots, like, this just happens.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that was like when I did the in-season update versus the end of season update, because obviously the way the season ended, but Yeah, he was another guy that moved, guys like Christian Watson, right? Because at that
Yep.
point he was even back, and like Christian Watson finished the season strong, and we know the upside on a per target basis there. So like Christian Watson was a big mover. It just goes to show you how like even a 9-game sample, like can alter still some of this stuff to a great degree.
But that's my overall point. If a 9-game sample can adjust
Yep.
it that much in Dynasty, then why are we trying to make 3-year projections? You
Right.
shouldn't. You shouldn't be. You should play it a lot more like redraft. Anyway, that's my acting thing. That said, I haven't had a good Dynasty team in the league that you and I are in for 2 years. So take what you will. Drake London, stay healthy, please, Drake London, and find a quarterback for Justin Jefferson, please. Anyway, we'll move on to talking about the Super Bowl. Before we do that, though, I do want to mention. Oh, by the way, go and check the Dynasty rankings out. Lots and lots of interesting stuff in there. Make sure you go and check it out. As you're doing that, though, when you're over at the site, make sure you're taking advantage of our Super Bowl package. We just released our best bet of the Super Bowl. Our best bets have gone 16-3 this season. They're undefeated since December 1st. The best bet is already out. It's available to you as part of that package. Make sure you go and check it out. You also will get all the rest of our Super Bowl recommendations at a $50 discount. Head over to sharp.football and check that out. Plus, as part of the Super Bowl, you get Warren Sharp's Super Bowl preview, at least 35 pages of that Super Bowl preview. It's the most in-depth analysis you'll find in the market. You'll get Rich's worksheet preview of the Super Bowl as well. All of that's coming out next week. Part of the Super Bowl package. Again, $50 off. Don't want to miss out. Go to sharp.football. All right, let's get into the Super Bowl. We got the Patriots versus Seahawks, obviously. Seahawks 4.5-point favorites, total 45.5. That total has fallen, which I think is in line with how a lot of people are viewing this game. I want to talk about that line, though, Seahawks 4.5, because you mentioned, and I think it's true, that everybody thinks the Seahawks are better and are going to win this game. And I think the Seahawks are better and are going to win this game. But then you look at this line and you see that it's 4.5. You see it hasn't really, it's not like moving or anything like that. I know that a lot of action has been on the Seahawks side of it. And that is interesting to me. Vegas doesn't always know, right? Like there could be big bets coming in on the Patriots. Like there are lots of reasons why this could happen. But the fact that everybody is so confident in the Seahawks and this line isn't getting closer to 7, maybe it will by the time we kick, is interesting, I would say. And it's also maybe an indication of how weird this season just has been in general, right? Like we have not known anything in general. We did get the NFC championship game. I think we kind of expected heading into the playoffs, right? But Broncos, Patriots, especially with how the Patriots played in that, throughout this entire playoff run, and now they're here in the Super Bowl. Like, is that what we were expecting? So everything's just been a little wild. We all think the Seahawks are better. We all think that last week between the Seahawks and the Rams was the quote unquote Super Bowl. But here we sit at just Seahawks 4.5-point favorites. And it's interesting to me, Rich. That's what I'd say about it.
In general, you don't see a lot of big lines in the Super Bowl anyways. This is the largest spread since the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl when Nick Foles was starting. That's a team that's come up multiple times now in the playoffs that based on like number 1 seeds being not favored. We had Stidham start last week.
Didn't work out quite as well as it worked for Foles. Not quite as well.
No, but I mean, there hasn't been a line over, I'm looking at it right now, there's been a closing line over 4.5 in the Super Bowl since 2008. That was Cardinals Steelers Super Bowl. And, the underdogs still put up a fight in that game. So like the underdogs still have in these spots have put up fights in these games with, so I am one when I've been a little bit more of a defender of the Patriots, I think, than most of the public has been, or at least people in our little bubble, right? My thing has been hey, handling your business against bad teams is also a sign of being good. Now, I will say the Denver game was an outright kind of scare though. And I think that's what's fresh in a lot of people's minds. And it's this team could have easily lost to Jarrett Stidham if he just holds on, just take the sack, dude. Just take the sack. That's the game right there. And then they potentially lose that game. But when you look at this though, on the surface, I do think that the general opinion of the total going down makes a lot of sense, right? I think this projects to be a low scoring Super Bowl, at least on my end, because you have the Patriots now. We've seen them with this 3-game sample. Where the strength of schedule comes into play is their offense having to punch up against really good defenses. And we've seen that kind of balance out and kind of go the opposite direction from where they were in the regular season in terms of offense efficiency and what we've seen in the postseason for them. This is a team now that they've averaged 18 points per game in the postseason. That's the fewest for any team to make the Super Bowl since 1979. I know there's some weather and stuff in that, but they faced 3 top 5 defenses. They're going to face another one again in the Super Bowl. They went from averaging 2.6 points per drive in the regular season, which was 4th, down to 1.2 points per drive in the postseason, which is 12th out of the 14 playoff teams would have been bottom in the league. And that's kind of where the strength schedule applies to them. But I do think defensively, people are missing the plot for this team a little bit in terms of strength schedule. Like, they have won these games while their offense is struggling because their defense has been so dominant. And like, yeah, a lot of people will be like, oh, they faced the Chargers without Joe Wall and Houston without Nico Collins and the Stidham game. But like, they did in those games what good defenses are supposed to do. They didn't let those teams off the mat. They didn't let those teams do anything outside of the one kind of blown coverage on the Marvin Mims play. Jarrett Stidham was trash in that game. Like, it was objectively terrible even before the snow came. So like, this is what you're supposed to do. And that's what Seattle's done. Like, no one does this against Seattle. Like, Seattle has given up 2 big games to Matthew Stafford, but like, outside of the 2 Brock Purdy games, like, they haven't faced any good quarterbacks, especially the back half of the year. And particularly when I talk about New England's defense, this is where I think the strength of schedule comes into play for the Seattle side, right? Seattle, the back half of the year, has faced 3 teams that have been in the top half of the league in defensive success rate the entire season, or that back half of the year. They've only faced 3 teams the entire season that are in the top 10 in terms of passing points allowed. And I like to use passing points allowed per attempt because it encompasses everything. It covers like every metric. And it's why it's one of the better metrics. And their offense has struggled. And I do think schematically, this New England defense actually matches up well with the Seattle offense, because Seattle wants to inherently run the football, stem everything off of the run game, play action, take shots downfield. This is the 2 best run defenses in the NFL. You have a good cornerback. I can't wait to see Christian Gonzalez and Jackson Smith-Njigba lock up. Now, it's not like it's going to be like an old school Darrelle Revis, like he's going to shadow him type game, but we're going to see matchups where they do line up against each other. So I do think that the New England defense is a little bit underrated in terms of this matchup. And we're going to get into the weeds of like why. I have some stuff that I've already written about for both these quarterbacks too, but I do think that New England's defense is good enough to kind of at least throw a wrench into what Seattle wants to do top down in this game. And I think it gives them a little bit of a punching chance in this game, more so than I think the general public assumes, because not a lot of people are looking at like this. Seattle has not faced very good pass defenses and very good pass rushes and very good teams that like not really at all the back half of the year.
And I also think, to that first point on the pass rush thing, we'll see what happens with Harold Landry and if he's able to get back. But it hasn't really mattered. I mean, the Patriots have just been getting after the quarterback, and they've been blitzing a lot as well, which the thing about, and you mentioned again, we'll get into the nitty gritty of all of this, but one of the things to really look out for with Sam Darnold is he wasn't necessarily bad against pressure or bad against the blitz this year. He hasn't been, but he has made his mistakes against the blitz. I believe he's 31st among qualified quarterbacks in interception rate against pressure. I'm 31st in interception rate against the blitz. And so that's, if you're looking at how can an underdog win, that's a way that an underdog can win, is they end up forcing turnovers because they're getting pressure, they're blitzing, and Sam Darnold, makes those mistakes. So that's there as well. The other thing you think about, well, how can an underdog win? Well, underdog can win if there are just fewer possessions, right? Because the fewer possessions, the larger role that variance plays in it. Variance is always going to play a role because it's the NFL and there are just few possessions to begin with, but you can still slow the game down. Neither of these teams is particularly fast. They're not like bottom of the league slow, but when my neutral rate filter, the Patriots are, I think, like 14th and the Seahawks are 20th. So we have 2 teams that are relatively slow. We have 2 teams that want to run the ball. That's actually been a point of contention in the Slack this week at the site with what are the Seahawks going to want to do, because this Patriots run defense is absolutely outstanding. But the Seahawks have shown us, even when they weren't a good running team, that they're going to want to run the football, right? We know that the Seahawks are 29th in neutral pass rate this year. We know that they're 27th in pass rate over expected. A lot of that happened when they couldn't run the football. So I don't know if the Patriots being good at defending the run is going to adjust their plan at all. And so there's lots of reasons to think that this could be as you said, the under, this could be a slower pace game. This could be a game in which the big plays always matter. The big plays matter from like a post-game win expectancy a lot more than maybe even we think they do. But if you're going to have more teams running into brick walls, more plays running into brick walls, if you're going to have a slower game, you're going to have fewer overall plays, maybe fewer overall possessions, and those big plays, those variance plays become more important. And the Patriots are able to create those just like the Seahawks are, right? And especially one thing I'll be looking at are, on special teams with Rashid Shaheed. We know what Rashid Shaheed can do as a returner. We know what Marcus Jones can do as a returner, as a punt returner, and what he can do from that perspective. We know the issues Drake May has had against pressure and taking sacks and fumbles. That could be another big play situation. So the opposite of what we saw the Patriots get against the Broncos. And so I do think that this game is it's maybe more unpredictable than we think, just based on looking at these two teams, because the Seahawks are, by all metrics, a better team. But if you are increasing the importance of those big plays and of turnovers and of things like that, then, and if the Patriots are in a position to put Sam Darnold in a spot where he has made mistakes already this season, then that adds to, okay, the Patriots really do have probably better than a punter's chance in this game. So that really is an interesting part of this conversation to me.
Yeah, both these teams, another thing they said, like in neutral game states, they're 28th and 29th in seconds per play. Both the Patriots ran 14 no huddle snaps the entire season outside the fourth quarter. Only the Bengals ran fewer.
So that number is interesting to me because I have my own neutral filter that I use that I like. And like I said, I think it was like 14th and 20th. But I did think when I looked at that this might be wrong. Like it feels like these teams are slower. So it's interesting to say 28th and 29th. I'll have to look into that deeper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're doing like 8 points and stuff as possessions,
sure,
which is kind of not the greatest.
Yeah.
But yeah, both these teams want to inherently though, like do things off the play action. They will take shots downfield, which is nice when they can get that. So we could get some big plays still. It depends how aggressive these defenses want to get, and that's like stuff we're going to explore probably more so next week than here. But you look at these teams also had 7 games against common opponents this year. Both of them went 6-1. Also, neither of these teams lost a game by more than a touchdown this year. New England's losses were by 7 and 4 points. They did lose to the Raiders, though. Like it's
that week one.
When Super Bowl team lost the Raiders.
That week one is interesting.
Yeah, and in Seattle, their losses are 7-3 in 2 points. But against common opponents, though, this is where you start to see like Seattle outscored those teams by 101 points. New England was plus 64, still really good. But like you see, and you talk about some of the special team stuff. I mean, obviously the Patriots have a rookie kicker. Jason Myers, one of the more dependable kickers in the league, especially from longer field goals out. Like that's a difference. He's made 82% of his kicks 40 plus yards versus 64% for Borregales. Michael Dixon, one of his top 10 in terms of pinning opponents inside the 20-yard line and yards per punt. So like you have kind of a little bit of a special teams edge still for Seattle, even before counting like that they have the most special teams touchdowns in the NFL as well. So special teams, another kind of feather in the cap. I think most people, when they just look at this from the like range of outcomes, they don't see a scenario where like Seattle gets blown out, right? And that's kind of, I think, where it stems from. A lot of people just siding with Seattle. In terms of probability, yes, I think everyone understands that Seattle could lose. But if there was to be like a game environment where like one team wins by double digits, I think most people assume that would be Seattle doing so more so than New England would.
To your point, Seattle's second in DVOA for special teams, and New England is 20th, right? But again, New England has those weapons. It's just an interesting game overall. I like this game. I do think the part of it of like the public being so squarely on the Seahawks, and rightfully so. There's no criticism there. I am the public, right? So I'm fine with I agree that the Seahawks are better, but it does make, I think, for some interesting conversations. And we're going to have more of those conversations. We're going to go much more in depth in the Super Bowl next week. I and Warren will be on an episode to talk about that. We'll go more in depth with props. We'll get some of your own props as part of Sharp Tank. Make sure you stick around and go sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get some information about that. You can also get, as we said, Warren Sharp's Super Bowl preview. That'll be available early next week. week. Rich's worksheet preview, that'll be early next week, all part of the Super Bowl package, which again, you get for $50 off if you go to sharp.football. So make sure you check that out. Yeah, I think that's it. We're gonna go dig more in. We're gonna dig more into the Super Bowl. We have a lot more stuff for you, so make sure you
We
subscribe.
want just a taste, a little tease,
a little taste. Talk about my terrible Arc Raiders experience. I want you to come play Arc Raiders with me, so you can just get as angry as I get whenever you get.
I mean, that's not a hard sell. Like, you're making a hard sell.
Just come play for 45 minutes and get as angry as you've ever been. How does that sound? Does that sound like a good experience?
I mean, I told you I was like a competitive, Madden player for like time I traveled. Like my blood pressure can only handle so much, man. Like you can't do that.
Yeah. No, I have had to uninstall FIFA from the PlayStation, so I understand.
And you're a tabletop gamer, and I'm a huge tabletop gamer. And we found probably about 12 years ago, like our group of friends, we still get together and play, board games and get together. It's an excuse for us to hang out, and have those relationships with your friends. But we found that like playing competitive like tabletop games was like almost ruining our friendship.
Yeah.
And we transitioned to co-op games, and like it just enhanced the experience so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I am firmly team that. Like it just in general, it's just much better to play as co-op than it is. Although there are fun games, there's a fun heist game I really like, in which essentially by the end of it, we all are just trying to kill each other to get a bigger share of the pie. So that's at least a fun part of it. But yeah, for most of the game, you need to be in cahoots. I think we do my friend group, my tabletop group. We do a couple like retreats every year. So hopefully we'll be getting one of those in the spring to go play a weekend of games and lounging in pools. And so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Do you have any vacations planned or anything? I mean, I know people talk about the end of the season, like literally like free agency is like a month away.
Well, that's the thing, is that you have a week and a half before the combine or something like that. So you don't have time. My wife and I will escape to the country where I can sit and read, and she can sit and do whatever.
Is that like a driving trip? Like you guys drive? Like
yeah, we drive out to the boonies. I always pick a place that's close to a barbecue place that I want to try. So it's always within a nice 30-minute drive from a good barbecue place, and so we'll be doing that. We'll be near Lockhart this time around. But yeah, we always do one of those very quickly. That President's Day weekend is always a good weekend for it. My wife's a teacher, for those who don't know, so we always have to schedule around the holidays. So there you go. But yeah, one of those. I mean, I'll be at a casino. You know me. I'm just gonna get random. There'll be the middle of March. I'm gonna get bored, and you'll call me, and I'll just be at a casino in Oklahoma randomly. So you know how I do. How about y'all? Y'all got anything?
Well, listen, I'm still planning on coming to your area. I'm going to try to get a weekend where I want to go to Goldie's, which I know you have never been. Which is
never
cool.
Been to Goldie's. I've tried to go to Goldie's twice, and both times the line was too long for the time that I had. I was just driving through Dallas. So or Fort Worth is where Goldie's is.
Yeah, do you want to? What is the best place that you've had? What is the best Texas barbecue? So you could light mentions on fire.
Burnt Bean in Seguin. The Burnt Bean in Seguin. It has gotten a lot more attention in the last 2 years. I was there before it was cool kids. I was at the Burnt Bean. I had my picnic table in the back. So it's gotten a lot busier, but it is the hype is real. That place is good. Sides are great. All the meat is great. It is a outstanding place. Interstellar in Austin is also good. Franklin's is also good. No, Franklin's is really good. The hype is real. I like Pinkerton's in Houston as well. This podcast is gonna go for 45-50 minutes if you just let me keep listing off barbecue places. But yeah, there's a lot of good. I want to go to Goldie's. I'll bring the lawn chairs. We'll be ready to party.
Yeah, what do we do? We play some Mexican dominoes. We wait in line. What do we do? And what do you do in the barbecue line?
I mostly sit in a lawn chair and drink beer. So if you're interested in that,
very interested in that. Very interested in those things.
We die in the Texas sun while drinking beer, and then we come inside and we drink sweet tea while we eat barbecue. That's basically the plan of a barbecue stay. But if you need me to bring a tabletop game, I'm with you. I'm there for you.
Beautiful. I love it.
All right, that's it for us. We'll be back next week. I hope you enjoyed Rich and Raven's barbecue talk.